So you are
Excellent.
correct. I am a domestic violence researcher, but I'm not only a researcher. I do this for more than 30 years, maybe 35. I'm not counting them anymore. But it's quite a while. I started in the 80s with this subject of violence in relationships. I started on the issue of sexual violence and sexual abuse of children by adults. And I stayed in the field. And so, yeah, I'm a researcher. I have a PhD. So I stayed at university as a researcher and a teacher for more than a decade. And I'm having my own agency since 1998, so that's already quite a while too. But I cooperate with many different people. So I cooperate sometimes with our governments, with the local government, with local agencies, but also international. And yes, I know the work of Jennifer Harman, and Jennifer Harman does wonderful work. She's a wonderful researcher in this field, because she has this sharp view and she's reframing this whole issue of alienation under the bigger umbrella of domestic violence. And that's already something which is very important or interesting to state, that I agree with her work very much. But not all feminist researchers look at this issue the way we do, the way Jennifer does, the way I do. So PA, parental alienation, and I would not also in this interview spend too much time on talking about the term, because I have found out that is not very helpful in practice. I prefer to describe it better, or to give specific examples, or to make it more concrete, instead of kind of arguing over the term. But what you can see is in the domestic violence field, and Jennifer and I have many colleagues in this field who disagree the existence of PA. So they say it's in fact a coercive controlling tactic of the ex-partner, kind of flagging this card of PA and kind of using it as a mean to get control over the ex-partner and the children, and do that via the children. So create confusion and kind of make a lot of smoke and kind of disguise it. But I think that PA can be used as an invention to get hold on somebody. So they have, in a way, they have right. But that's not the whole truth. The truth is, and the reality is, and that's where I'm standing for, there is such a thing as PA. So there are many mothers and fathers who are alienated from their children, or their children stood up and said, sorry, mom, sorry, dad, I never liked you in the first place, or we were not bonding so very well in the past. And if I think about it, I don't need to see you anymore. It's okay with that. I have enough on the relationship with my mom. So I think it's very important that feminists also see that there is a reality, and they acknowledge this reality, because I'm in the midst of this discussion already for some years, also with colleagues I really honor and respect. But they see it as far as they see then this coercive controlling. But PA is related to coercive control, but it's not a synonym of coercive control. So coercive control is a vehicle by which you can express this type of behaviors, which kind of make relationships in families very vulnerable, very sharp-edged. But it's not a synonym, and it does not mean, that's the first. And the second point, it does not mean that if you use coercive control, that it's only males who are controlling females. No, I think it is a gendered phenomenon. So if we look at coercive control, we find around the world, we find more males coercively controlling women, but also parents can coercively control their children. So there are more relationships than just the partner relationship or the ex-partner relationship. And also grandparents can play a role. So we see this difficult dynamics, that these family dynamics pop up. And we see also in the former generation, we see there's stuff like ruptures in family relationships. We see difficult divorces. We also see that some of the moms or fathers who are alienated remember and reveal that they themselves, in a part of their lives, were rejecting one of their parents. Or they tell stories about brothers or sisters who have difficulties with their children and that they are involved. So we see a lot of complexity there in family relationships. So we need to dig in also on an intergenerational level. But coercive control, although I think with Evan Stark that it's a very important construct and that we need to study this far more. And we are dealing with this internationally now. The awareness is growing, but a lot more awareness is needed. But it's not only a thing that males do to women. Women can coercively control males too. And there are also women and mothers who are very much taking the children from divorce. And sometimes they can also fake a domestic partner violation or kind of enlarge it or kind of provoke in such a way that they can say, he slapped me. And you see, this is really wrong. And now I need protection. And this is why I cannot get my children not to go to this ex-partner, because females are more often saying to males, I think, he is dangerous. And males are more often saying about women, about females, she has a borderline, or she has an attachment disorder, or she has a kind of psychiatric illness. So that's the landscape we are in, and the way I deal with it. So I'm not doing particular research on alienation, although I did the study on the mothers. I did this with my own means in my own office. I had not finances for it. And till the day of today, I'm still trying to get it published. And although the editors of the journal are very convinced that my interview material is very powerful, they have large difficulties to lay off that blindness, so to speak, or to open up, because the word alienation is so difficult for them to swallow. They cannot. So it's also very interesting, but it's annoying too, of course, and it's frustrating because the world keeps on going on, and we need to have this type of work published and get it out in the world. So that's really difficult. I also coach parents. So that's another way, Jasmina, that you, I think, were a participant in the Zagreb conference. And I started with this one mom who was also present for a while. And it was a very empowering situation for her. She really felt empowered to speak. She had prepared it beautifully, and there was just a moment, but it was her moment, and she took her moment. And so that's another thing. You can coach parents who are rejected, mothers and fathers I coach nowadays, who you can help to kind of create a position which seems to be impossible because you don't see your children, or your children are very angry with you, or they don't want to see you, so you feel so stuck. And it's very interesting to look closer at the way you are stuck and how you can move in this very slight and little spaces and turn things around. Because what the Woodalls, Karen and Nick Woodall, are saying, I keep that model too. Alienation is, in fact, the model is framed around 4 characteristics. Characteristics of the parent who is rejecting, so the dominant partner. It's about the parent who is rejected. So how do you deal with this sometimes really traumatic issue? Because it's a real hardship, and I see the difficulties of this rejected parents. Also, the position of the child. Some children are more vulnerable to this type of manipulation or splitting than other children. So some children are more robust and they are still able to bridge these gaps. And there is the wider context, you could say. So what I saw in some of these cases of these 10 mothers, what I already explained, there were these intergenerational patterns that, for example, their mother-in-law and the ex-partner had similar personality characteristics and were very dominating about what should happen to the children. Or today, I just was preparing a masterclass, and we have some cases, and I was reading about a case where a couple coming from one country to another, so they start to come in the Netherlands. They do not have a network here. They have already a longer relationship, and the baby, who's a little bit older than 1 year, and she is very afraid of him, and she wants to leave, and he says that she can leave, but she can leave if she wants. She can step out of the relationship, but there is no way that she can take the baby. The baby will stay with him. And so she's going to the police and she is reporting this, but then she is withdrawing because she finds out, and there are some brothers from this country where they came from, who start trying to support her as well. But she's returning and she says, oh, okay, I think I need to continue this relationship, and I withdraw my report. Because the message is very clear in this case. If you leave, you can leave, but you can never return, and the baby is mine.
Yes, it is a matter of property.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. So this is a very clear case, you could say. And
child.
Yes. Yeah. So it can be very clear and very obvious. And these cases, I mean, then professionals also get awakened and they feel it. And I like this subject. We feel the wrongdoing also in our bodies. And we should use our bodies more. So you can feel it in your belly that something is aching there, or you think my neck, or I feel cold while reading this or hearing this or seeing this woman. So we should be far more able to see all these little signals and to get that more together, because professionals, they experience these things, but they are not very good in articulating them. So the moment they start to give these words, the case is really sometimes out of hand, or things have happened there. And I call that the carousel, that the whole family has been into this carousel of help, which doesn't help a lot. And then the momentum for the help and for intervening has also become more wrong, because children get this message very well too, that if the dominant parent is not corrected and is not taken aside, and you don't try to shift in the power relationships, the children take that message too, that the dominant partner or dominant parent is right.
Yes, and that is not the only problem. The problem is that they will grow up with that message, and that they will probably repeat it in their own relationships because they do not know better, or what is even worse, that message is incorporated in their bodies. The message is embodied in them.
Yes.
And it is like a program.
Yes.
It is like a program that's going to repeat itself in the future.
Yes.
So that is the reason why I think that the proper court order is the most important thing for a child, is to have that written message from the court that alienating parent is doing a crime, and that alienating parent is doing the wrong to the children. And that is not the behavior that is going to be tolerated by the society.
Yeah, well, I agree with you that we need correcting measures, and the timing of this matter is very important. So we need a lot more of awareness raising to be closer to this type of cases, and our awareness needs to be sharpened. I can tell a little bit later in the interview a little bit more about that. But it can be also, and I like to quote Linda Gottlieb. I always do this also in the course I'm giving for professionals and sometimes for parents too. So sometimes I'm showing a bus because I'm not a good drawer, but it's this sentence of her in which you can see, I can see a bus, and she says, you should not let children drive the visitation bus. And so
Yes.
you know perhaps that Linda Gottlieb is coming from this family system therapy. Do you see this child kind of starting to run the bus? Because that's what we do in generations. So the dominant partner is putting the child on the throne on the same type of level, or is kind of suggesting that's the same type of level. And so it can look down to the rejected parent and say, hello, you're not doing very well, and I don't like you anymore. And I think I prefer to stay with my other parent anyway, because I have a nice room there, and here, this mom who said to a 10-year-old son in this strained family relationship situation that he had to go to bed, he called her a hooker, because he was not taking any thoughts of her, or he was kind of stepping out of being raised, or seeing an authority in his mom, or seeing the reasonability of this rule. So he was very rude. So you get, if you let children drive the visitation bus, we get a lot of troubles. I mean, and the interesting thing is, we would say you need a driver's license, right, to drive a bus anyway. And so children are not in the position, so they start to become arrogant. They start to look from a throne down. And I think a very important intervention anyway, and a very powerful, is that we should not accept if this generation shifts are coming,
Yes.
because they mean big trouble, not only for this child and his parents, but also in the longer term, and also for the family generations. So that should be very important. And I think that Linda Gottlieb and the family system therapists have very strong points in showing that.
I absolutely agree. So being alienated mother and not having control of raising my sons at all, how and what I can do in my role.
Yes. Yes.
I feel completely powerless, but at the same time, I am a mother and I want to raise my sons. And occasionally, from time to time, I see them. So I'm using that time just to watch them. And that is,
yes,
majority of the time what I do, just breathing the air, sitting next to them. But I am a mother and I want to raise my sons.
Yes.
So there are all sorts of roles in me, in the capacity where basically I cannot do much.
Yes, yes. How old are your sons, Yasmina?
One of them is 18, the other one is 16.
Yes. And how many years you do not see them regularly anymore?
5, but they've been completely alienated from me for 7 years. That means for the last 2 years when I was inside the house, in the family, yes. The older one was completely alienated from me, which is, so rare to hear. Because usually when you talk about parental alienation, you think about first being divorced and separated, and then the parental alienation starts, which is not true. You can have parental alienation while you are still with your family,
yes.
in
yes.
the house.
Exactly, Yasmina. And I see this also in the study with the moms, but I see this also in coaching. And sometimes we are searching for this. And I remember, for example, also a mom telling me about the family dinner table. So there they were sitting all together and having meals together. And how the father, who was alienating the children and coercively controlling the situation, would say to the eldest child, "Do you see your mom, and do you see how she looks today? It's really awful, you see, and how she looks from her eyes. It's really, she is such a nasty woman." So he was speaking over her in her presence. And so the children took over this type of behavior because it's also a matter of modeling. And so they started also to laugh about their mom and to mock their mom while their mom was present. And
Yes.
one of the younger children was too young to realize exactly what was going on. And she was, in a certain phase, less alienated because she was less affected. But you could say if one parent starts to manipulate the children against the other parent, that's a kind of corruption, you could say. It's corrupting the whole family situation. And a child also can be put into a situation where it feels that it needs to go. So it flips from one side to the other. We can see that too. But some
Yes.
children also start to cooperate with this dominant pattern, and they start to betray the other parent in presence of the other parents, talking over the other parent without talking to the other parent. So you're right. If we dig, we find situations or where one parent, let's say a mom, is very dominant in how things should be done in the house and how to deal with all the kids' stuff, and kind of pushing away this partner because this partner is bringing in the money and he is good for the money. And then in the divorce or after the divorce, kind of say, you had never a position in the family, but they have already pushed that partner very much away to kind of create this idea that they are the superior parent. And I think that a lot of dominant parents in this position think, especially in the divorce and after the divorce, that they are superior. They feel superior. They feel the superior parent. They feel superior in their morals. And yes, so you have to dig out that type of pattern, and then you get also, as a mom or father who is rejected, you get more understanding what is going on, because if this happens, this can be so traumatic that you start to go from one crisis to another, and you think, wow, how did this all happen? So it's very important to dig that out, and also to find in your own family of origin what happened there. And if you are vulnerable or extra vulnerable because of certain patterns, and because I think it's never only the dominant partner, but it's also coming with some other vulnerabilities.
I completely agree with you, friend. Dr. Dijkstra, yeah? Did I pronounce
that's nice
it?
Said. Yeah.
I want to be official. That is very interesting what you have said, because I think it is very important that the public knows about intimate partner violence, that it knows about domestic violence, because if you do not recognize that what is happening between two of you, between two partners, that is a violence, you are not recognizing what is happening to you. You are not recognizing what is happening to your children. And you are completely, completely frozen. You are basically do not know what is happening, and you don't know what you are going to do.
Yes.
And
yes.
what is the way out.
Yes.
So,
yes. So
I was completely
once
unaware
a
that
professional saying, I had once a professional saying that if it's a match, Yasmina, it's a football match. It's 6-0, and you have 0, and they have 6, and you have no clue what happened that this is the situation. So you have to dig in there to see what happened there, to find a way of counterbalancing it. And this is and some parents are able to kind of let come to life a kind of more strategic parent, or a more reflective parent, or a more digging in parent. And that's what we need, because if we stay only in these emotional states, we are devastated. And sometimes it can be this kind of hook net, you see, because you feel so devastated as a rejected parent and you don't see your sons very often. That's a very hard task, to kind of tune in where they are right now. And children can be very critical about that if you but you don't see them on a daily basis or a weekly basis. So it's very difficult. And so sometimes rejected parents get more and more out. They get more and more difficult contact issues with their children. And some are saying, I might better be stopping and close the door, or say I close the door here. And if they want to return in a better state, they are welcome. But I cannot keep the door open anymore, because it's ruining my life and it's ruining my health.
That is completely true. You are feeling like on a roller coaster. There are times when you have the energy, when you have focus and clearness what to do and how to do it. And there are times when you are completely overwhelmed by the pain and you simply cannot do it. You simply have to withdraw in a safe place and be on your own. And that is something what experts do not understand, is that, you know, it comes in waves. It simply comes in waves. You simply have to withdraw and be completely by yourself in order to survive and in order to come back again. Because we never give up. I'm on majority of the blogs around the world, and we never give up. We are going back and forth constantly, and you know, there are people who are grandparents now, who are there in their 70s and 80s, and who are still searching for their children. And of course, they did not meet their grandchildren at all. So a question of coercive control and power in a relationship is what I would say, when it comes to the parental alienation, the word to understand parental alienation. Because if you see parental alienation only from the angle of child abuse, then you are missing the bigger picture, and actually the picture about the parental alienation, because children in the parental alienation are only ammunition. They are actually arms taken against the other parent. And what alienating parent is doing is actually he or she is expressing his power over the other parent. And that is something which most of us, especially at the beginning, did not understand at all, or, you know, even during the whole process, we did not understand at all, because we were so much focused on our children to save them from something that's happening. Because at the beginning, I thought that there was an alien entered into my children. That badly they behaved. They simply were not my children. These days, I completely understand what is happening behind the scene and who is pulling the strings. And then when you have that knowledge, and that is important, friend, why I'm actually having this interview with you, is to understand the dynamics, the psychodynamics of a relationship of two grown-ups, which is going through the children. And once you understand that, you can balance yourself in yourself to understand actually how to approach your children when they're acting badly. And that is actually the message. What I would say to my alienated parents is that our children cannot act in any other way, because they are put in such a horrible position that they need and have to survive. And every time I see them, I love them even more, and with a special kind of love now these days, seeing them in what horrible situation they are.
Yes.
And it is actually amazing how you can transfer your mothership completely on a higher level now, knowing in what position your children are and how you can be even a better person and a better mother for your children, helping them in such situations as they are put in the parental alienation situation.
Yes, yes. So you also express, I like the behind the scenes. So there is a theater in the front, but behind the scenes, there is something else going on. So that's what professionals really need to be taught about, not just take for granted what you see on the screen or on the play in the front, but be very attentive. So I always say, where are the eyes going? Who's speaking first? And you see, if you are in control, so if you are the controlling parent and things are going okay, you can be quite relaxed and you can also be quite charming because you are really lovely in control. So what is there to worry about? And then we see rejected parents and they can be confused, they can be angry, they feel traumatized in times. So it's very difficult, this route you are describing, to kind of to travel from there to getting compassion for your children and to see that they are framed as well as you are framed too, but in all different positions. And what I often say about, there are children in my background, maybe you hear it, they are playing in the garden here behind my office. It's Friday afternoon, right? But you can say from parents who are dominant that they use, and we were talking about technique, they use a remote control. So once you have this manipulation going and it goes well, you can relax and the other starts to worry and is very busy and kind of dealing with all this damage, you see, coming from all sides and where to focus on. It's really very hard. So this remote control, and we see that even if the children are not with the dominant partner, they are still expressing the views of the dominant partner. So that has become their new reality. It's their new clothement, you could say, their new clothes. So they feel like this is reality. But besides the remote control, which is definitely there, you can put, if you can find, and every parent can, and also parents who are rejected, you know your son so very well that nobody could just, who's seeing your son more often, could feel, could describe, could give the love like you are doing, because that's coming from very deep. And so there is something like remote care. Although you don't see them every day, I'm sure that your thoughts and your love, and it's jumping all the time over. So you don't see them, but you feed them. And in little moments, like you were describing, you were seeing them and breathing the same air. You are sitting next to them. And I think that you can already see in the way they turn their bodies, how they are feeling or what should be needed.
Yes, absolutely, Fran. That is what I write about at my other webpage and blog called Parental Alienation Healing. Actually, how we can reconnect with our children through thoughts and through what we feel inside and how we heal inside. Because my major obstacle was that I was not physically with my children. So I was trying to find the answer or the way in other way. And that is how I actually think that I can reconnect and rebond with my children. And rebonding is the essential word, because you have their bodies next to you, but if you do not rebond with your children, you have nothing. So basically cleaning your thoughts and healing your thoughts, you are beaming out special kind of energy towards them and changing yourself from inside. You are connecting with them and you are putting them on higher energetic level where you can reconnect and rebond with them. And that is not, you cannot see that with your eyes. You can, that is in the domain of invisible. And it is so beautiful because that's what I've been doing for the last year and a half, and our relationship is changing just through me, because that is happening through me. And when I wanted to talk to you what parents can do.
Sorry, Yasmina,
for
just
their
a
children.
moment. Sorry, Yasmina, just a moment. I'll close my door because
Okay.
some of the children have really loud plays, so we
All
don't
right.
hear that background sound too much. Yes, so you traveled very far, right? And metaphorically speaking, in how
Yes.
to
Yes.
bond with your children, or how to be with your children.
Yes, that is true, and that is, you know, what I wanted to find the answer to that domestic violence and how I can change the things when everything seems impossible. There is no such
Yes.
thing as impossible, as simple as that, and coercive control is something that you react to. You react to coercive control of your ex-partner. And the point is whether you want to react or whether you want to remove yourself from
Yes.
the other partner and
Yes.
think about why you are reacting in such a way.
Yes. Yes.
And then heal that inside so you do not react anymore. And that is the point where he or she cannot control you anymore.
Yes, exactly. So
That's the point where he or she cannot control children anymore.
yes.
Because you are not reacting to your children
Yes.
anymore.
Yes. So if you look at definitions of coercive control and the impact, then it's saying, like the researcher in England, Andy Myhill, it's diminishing space for action. So literally your space to move, to feel free, to act, to say what you want, to express yourself is limited. And you are totally correct. So what I said about what mothers and fathers who are rejected can do because of this loving bond they have with their children, love can be also corrupted. So intimate knowledge can be used towards you to know what makes you tick and how I get you really upset, or how I get you angry, or how I get you chaotic, or how you panic. And you play on it. And this is why sometimes women, or also men, take medicine because they thought that they had a disorder, that they were chaotic, but they were made chaotic. So you get their fake disorders sometimes. Or it can be also used to say, look at her or look at him. He is an abusive father. She is a neglecting mother. You see, she did never things for the kids. Or, and women are doing this more often, I think, to men, they say, this man is really dangerous. He should be put out after the divorce of having contact with the children because they are afraid to see him, and we cannot have that. We don't want it. So sometimes, and this is also created in such a way that the children start to believe also this is the case. Like this example of an alienated father of 2 little sons, going to primary school, haven't seen him for quite a while, going to the schoolyard and waiting for the special hour or moment the children are getting out for the play, 15 minutes or something. Because he really wanted to see his 2 little sons. And then one friend of the sons was seeing that the father was there at somewhere at the edge, and he said, let's run, because you know there is your father and your mother is sad and it's very dangerous. We should go inside the school. Oh no. So there was a lot of panic. And then the director of the school came out and he said, sir, what are you doing? This is really wrong, you know. And the father said, but I'm just missing my kids so much. I just wanted to see them. And you see this example, so we can also see that coercive control and the way it's put, it's always working through third parties. This can be the school director, this can be the peers of the sons, this can be the school doctor, it can be the nurse around, it can be the football playground, it can be the school mentor. So everybody's influenced, because this is what makes coercive control really strong and makes the one who is rejected so busy, because it's like a net. It starts to be everywhere. It starts to, by controlling and charming that environment and also making a lot of suspicious remarks, making your life really hard. And it's a reality where children step into. And these little sons believed at that time, we don't know yet if we should interview them in 10 years, if this would be possible, what exactly is going through their minds. But I think that they have also faced that they really think that their father is dangerous, but they also love their father, because I saw also drawings they made of him. So they are maybe also saying, I cannot be with you, but there's a part of me still thinking about you and missing you very much.
I agree with you. I was and I am still a stalker. I really go where my children are. And I think it is important for them to see me, you know, to know that I care about them, that I go to the sports events, to the places where they usually are staying with friends, or just, you know, to see me. I regularly, and I still do, go to schools for the information. And you said, yes, there is whole net of other people who will go against you, because that is how it is in this parental alienation arena. There is the whole army of flying monkeys who will do the dirty job for the alienating parent. But what I think it is important to understand, that those people are actually not against you. That is nothing personal. It is that they've just been psychologically seduced by the charm of alienating parent.
So what the alienating
not to resent them.
Yes, what the alienating parent is doing with the parent who is rejected, so using intimate knowledge, is also done by third parties. So we all have weak spots. We all have moments where we start to feel flooded. So I once asked this woman in the focus group that were females who had all one child, still a young child. They started to step out of their marriage or their relationship when the child was very young. They had really difficult lives and they felt so unprotected by all the services because they didn't see what they were going through. So they had a lot of court cases or a lot of complaints. They were controlled, let's say, by the child care, that the grandparents were not allowed to take the child. So they had difficulties in the work care balance. They were financially ripped. So that's also a part of the coercive control and of the alienation. So it's not only about words and physics, it's also about digital and financial rip-offs and economic ones, and this going through third parties. But this third party thing, I said, what would your ex-partner say to me in trying to flatter me? She said, this person would say, well, I could see, Dijkstra, you are really a scholar. You have really learned quite a lot and you have quite some books and library around you. So you must be really an expert, right? And so sometimes guardians are also flattered because there is someone who sees that they are doing a job and that they want the best. And sometimes they think, I'm going to help this father or this dear mother. But that's also a dynamic, especially between dominant fathers and guardians, who think, I'm going to help this father to do that position and kind of take that mom off because she says such bad things about this parent, and he's only trying to do his very best. And we need to help him and support him to get that going. So yes, these third parties, and if I zoom out a little bit about coercive control, I try, and we made a Dutch movie. Unfortunately, there is not money yet to get it translated, but it's a very good movie. It's played by actors, and we have comments of different experts about the different scenes. So you see the whole process, because usually we see a snapshot, and it's not so easy about the snapshot to draw a conclusion, but it starts to make sense if you see them one after another. So I explained there that the first thing in coercive control being done is to isolate a person. So if I have you in front of a whole group of people, let's say on a conference, it's very difficult to influence you personally. But if I have you on your own, I can kind of feel, and I can kind of feel what makes you tick. So if I can isolate you, I can manipulate you better and also control you better. Once I get that going, then I really have the mechanic going, and then I use third parties to extend that. So the neighbors are starting to say, well, Jasmina is really, really strange with her sons, right? Or she's crying sometimes, and it's really weird. And yes, her ex-husband or husband has told, yeah, she's so upset recently, and she's really, it's like her illnesses is coming up. I think she's not taking her medicine anyway. She really should go to a caretaker to find out what's wrong with her. So this framing with third parties, that makes it so difficult. And you are right, usually what you call flying monkeys, they might have good intentions, but they do not see the bigger picture, and they have a lack of awareness, and that lack of awareness is used to make them bond with the dominant parent.
That is true. That is absolutely true. And the other problem is that because we do not have physical contact with our children, we have to go and we have to find out about them through other people too. So you are basically annoying all the time other people with your personal stuff, with your personal story, constantly asking about your children, or you're asking other people to do certain things for your children because you cannot do it. Yes. And then you annoy other people. And yes. You know, if that is happening for the last 6 months, then it is all right. But if it's happening for the last 5 years, those yes. people have enough. You know, it's enough.
Yes. And
that is actually how you are trying to find your way towards your children. In whatever can help you as a target parent, as an alienated parent, you will do. And you will employ other people to help you. Yes. And it is very emotionally, it is very demanding situation, because you have to play so nicely with the whole world around you, trying to find your way in towards your children. Yes. And you have to do it 24 hours, 7 days a week. And that is how our life is. But as long as I see hope that I will finally manage to rebond with my children, yes. I will do whatever it takes.
Yes.
To succeed.
Sometimes, Jasmina, I use the example of water dripping on a stone. And it's a long process, but if the water keeps on dripping on the stone will change.
Definitely. definitely. And it takes so much strength on daily basis.
Yes.
To do that. And you actually, as the alienated parent, you reinvent yourself every morning when you wake up. It doesn't matter how little strength you have, but you have to reinvent yourself again and again and again every morning and start your game all over.
Yes.
That's how it is at the moment. And I want to pay respect to every single alienated parent for doing it. And I want to pay respect to every single expert like you, Fran, to standing next to us. Because we are alone and we feel alone.
Yes.
And having you on our side, you and every other parental alienation expert, is wind in our sails, because we do not feel abandoned anymore. And being on the conference in London, Parental Alienation Conference in London 2018, and now in Zagreb 2020, was a blessing from the sky, seeing you all talking about parental alienation, fighting for us, doing whatever you can to support us. It is an amazing thing. I am, and I was an adult child. What happened to me happened to my father as well 40 years ago.
Wow.
So I know what it means, what it meant then, how it was to be alienated parent. And it's completely different situation now to be an alienated parent. Having you experts now with us. My father didn't have experts then. So he still does not believe that it is possible to win children back. I believe it is possible, and I will win them back.
That's great. Your words are really moving me, Jasmina, because they come from so deep, and it's very special, of course. I have not looked up your sites yet, but you are, of course, very engaged in what you're doing, and you try to contribute to and to change something about the world and to bring more awareness, but also, I think, to make your experiences more meaningful and helpful to others, right?
I would say so. My blog in Croatian, Life with Alienated Children, it's an educational website, but also blog is emotional, because I write stories how it is to be an alienated mother. So people can feel the stories and can feel how it is to be in my shoes, in the shoes of an alienated mother. Because if you are an alienated father, that is one picture. But if you are an alienated mother, people really think that you must be a very, very horrible person to be alienated from your children. And I want to change that perspective in the eyes of the Croatian public. And again, I repeat, parental alienation is gender neutral. Both mothers and fathers are equal victims of such dreadful drama and tragedy. But I am a mother, and I'm writing the blog from, from my side, being a mother and being a woman. I just read 2 days ago the beautiful book, A Kidnapped Mind by Pamela Richardson, and I put it on my post, asking the audience to read the book in order to understand how it is to be in the shoes of an alienated mother, but more to see how damaging parental alienation is for a child and how child is psychologically changing himself or herself, and how dreadful that is. And seeing, being a mother and seeing how my children were psychologically changing in front of me was the most difficult thing in my life.
Yes. Yes.
I don't want that the thing happens to anybody else in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That is the most horrible thing that I've seen in my life.
Yes. Yes.
And now they are completely shut down. And that is the consequence.
Yes.
Someone who is 16 and who is shut down.
Yeah.
So, friend, thank you very much for all the work that you do for us. I'm really honored to have you here and to talk to you and to know that you have your agency and that you have your research, which you show to the world and which is an evidence what is happening in parental alienation situations. And that is a narrow picture, which is child abuse, and wider picture, which is partnership abuse.
Yes.
And as you said, that actually we all should look wider and deeper for the answers in the parental alienation stories.
Yes.
And that is what I'm asking from the experts, from the practitioners, from the lawyers, from the judges, to look much wider and much deeper in every single parental alienation case.
Yes.
Because they will find the answer.
Yeah, I agree with you very much. This is also why I'm so impressed, for example, of the research of Jennifer Harman and what she's doing in the teaming and together with the students and with other researchers, because she's bringing out this knowledge in a very validated way. I do it more in more qualitative ways. So I'm digging usually more into family histories, but I'm not doing large scale research. But I think also this interview, and thank you for asking me, we are bearing witness that although we could discuss about if it's PA or if it's existent or non-existent, that's not so important. We kind of passed that, and we showed in this conversation it's there. It's something which is real and which is happening to a lot of people. And that they have to make a long journey to understand more what's going on there, because some parents start to become very angry with their children because they do not recognize their own children anymore. And I agree with you, and I feel with you also. I feel compassion for the fact that your children can act in a way that you do not recognize. You look into the eyes of strangers, into the behavior of some horrifying new reality you cannot link to. But it means that they are also positioned. So I call them, they are the agents of terror. So yes, they are put into this tapestry, in this framework as well. But I really believe, Yasmina, that the power, even of remote care, the thoughts, the love you express, maybe you have a photograph of your sons in your room somewhere and you look at them and you say them hi, or you think about what you saw the last time and you can reflect on them in such a way that they feel really acknowledged and seen, because every child loves to be seen. And this is something usually the dominant partner cannot give in this way, because you dig very deep into that loving bond. And I think there is real power in this type of care.
Yes, I completely agree. And the most beautiful thing, how I actually start my morning and how I finish my evenings, is I give little pray to my sons each morning and each evening when I go to bed. And that is what I'm sending to them.
Yes.
Every single day. And friend, you are absolutely right. That is what they feel, long distance, they feel my feelings about them. And that is what I would encourage every single parent, alienated or not, to do for his or her children.
Yes.
In the morning and in the evening. Yeah. To start a day like that, it is beautiful. And to finish your day like that is even more beautiful. And love is all what we need, and love is all what we have. Yes. That is how I would like to finish this interview. And I'm so happy to have you here today, and I'm so happy for your words and for your findings.
Thank you very much, Jasmina, too, for having this interview and bringing it out. And I hope, like you were expressing, that you are bearing witness and that you also talk with the voices of many people in the situations. And I hope that they get some hope out of it, and also some little ideas for actions, as small as it is. I think that's wonderful. Yeah, and let's not forget, also in this misery, about love and the healing power of love.
Healing power of love. Beautiful, beautiful words, friend. Healing power of love. Use them.
Yes.
Okay. Let's finish it with those words now.